Get high on science.
Get high on science.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm Horace.
Hi, I'm Dan.
Very nice to
Nice
meet
to
you.
meet
Come,
you.
please have a seat.
All right.
Today we are going to fly to Santa Ynez. And we're going to fly with you and with Dan.
Okay.
And Dan is a bright scientist, really bright scientist. He had lots of publications and highly cited. Some of his publications are cited more than 400 times.
On what subjects?
Psychology.
Excellent.
Psychology.
So that's why you picked the topic. Excellent.
Anxiety.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So the plan is Santa Ynez. This is the aircraft we're going to take right here. Have you been in a small plane before?
Only with him once.
Yes.
You took him in which plane?
It was SR-20.
Okay. So we'll expect faster, better service. This is state of the art. We just
Okay.
picked it up from the factory 3 months ago, in November.
Yes.
Oh,
November.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, so do you work at the airport here? Are you a filmmaker, a scientist, an aircraft person? I know
Aircraft
nothing.
person, yeah.
You told me nothing. I'm here under very few assumptions or intel.
Okay.
I just showed up. That is literally all.
Excellent. Well, Lauren here is our camera person.
Okay.
Hessam, we're a flight school.
Okay.
Yeah, and Hessam flies with us, and we became friends flying together. And Hessam has had a great idea. He said we should talk more about science while flying, make it more accessible to kids, and sort of dumb it down and
Yeah.
scientific literature into everyday people's language. Last week he called me and he said, "I've got this bright scientist, Dan. We need to go take him up in the air. We need to talk about how anxiety is so much higher today." And so that's how this came about. So that's the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
If you're ready, let's go.
Absolutely. So we go
All
to
right.
Santa Ynez.
Awesome. Where is Santa Ynez?
That direction.
By Santa
Yes.
Barbara, just about 15-20 miles offset from Santa Barbara.
Oh,
It's beautiful wine country. It's like
Okay.
a small, narrow airport.
Oh,
kind
cool.
of challenging to get in.
Okay.
Challenging to get out too. But Hessam is an expert, so I'm not worried about it.
Okay. Is it further up the coast from Santa Barbara or inland?
It's just inland, right? Maybe
It's
10
inland,
miles.
not a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just slightly.
10
Cool.
miles.
Yeah, I've been to Santa Barbara. I've driven there twice before. Cool.
Yeah. So let's just.
You're from New
All
York.
right.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
let's do the briefing here. So
Yeah.
Hessam is going to be the pilot in command. He's going to sit in the left seat. We'll try to minimize chatter on takeoff and on landing. Once we take off, we'll make a right turn at the shoreline. Once we get to altitude, then we'll start our discussion.
Great. How long is the flight there?
Nothing, 40 minutes. Less than
Okay.
40 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. That sounds good.
And-
So no Catalina, we're doing a Santa Ynez.
It's covered.
Oh,
It's
from
completely
clouds?
covered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just checked a few minutes ago.
Okay.
It's completely covered. It's not unusual. It's not unusual for Catalina.
Okay.
We'll go there next time.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, let's roll.
All right.
Let's
All
go.
right.
So how was your last experience, Dan, flying?
It was great. I had a nice time. We had some beautiful views, and Hessam was a good pilot.
He still is. To confirm.
I heard,
better now.
I heard he's gotten better. I heard he has some more qualifications added.
Yeah, 100%. He's gotten much better. And he's gotten very used to this aircraft because this is his own aircraft.
That's
and,
right.
And he flies it all the
yeah.
time.
Hessam, the aircraft is fantastic.
It is, thank
It's
you.
better than the last one.
Oh, huge difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
All right, guys, don't talk
He's a
too much.
monster, this guy.
Yeah. The last aircraft is ours, so don't talk too much bad about it. How long have you guys known each other?
Like 2 years?
That's right.
Yeah.
About 2 years.
How did you meet?
It's
Marker ground, Cherokee 7 Victor
My
Papa,
daughter
run up
plays
the
in the
plate.
same club.
Hessam's daughter and
Sir,
I are
setting up
best
to the
friends.
run up, coming up to the hold line, 7 Victor Papa.
This is going to be a relatively short run-up.
All right. Doors.
Confirmed.
Caps.
Removed.
Seatbelt.
Check. Everybody's got seatbelts on.
Air
Correct.
condition. Fuel. Fuel pump. Boost. Mixture reach. Flaps 50. Flap 50.
Confirmed.
Sierra 8 Whiskey Whiskey, runway 21, taxi via Bravo.
21 via Bravo, 8 Whiskey Whiskey. Let's do takeoff briefing.
Any problem prior to rotation, I will abort. After that, I will try to land back. If not, golf course, 600 to 2000 caps.
Anything after that, you fly
Any
the
problem?
plane?
It will be this troubleshooting. I will navigate.
Excellent.
And you take care of the communications.
Excellent.
There's 8 Whiskey Whiskey, runway 21, clear for takeoff, wind calm.
Runway 21, clear for takeoff. Thank you.
Here we go. Powerful. Airspeed alive. Engine instruments in the green. Rotate. '85, flaps up. Departure another runway. Excellent.
There's 8 Whiskey Whiskey, traffic Cherokee over San Marco Pier, north westbound, altitude and Kate's 1900.
Inside, we'll maintain visual separation, 8 Whiskey Whiskey. Let's go under him, he's right about that.
72124, San Marco Tower, runway 21, clear for takeoff, wind 190 at 3. Traffic, police helicopter over San Marco Pier, southbound, low altitude.
124, contact approach 134.9er, good day.
34.9er, 721.
Busy today.
It's going to get calm when we get closer to St. Ines.
Alright, now it's as good time as any to get started.
Dan,
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about anxiety.
All right.
Dan, do you know where we are?
We are over Malibu.
Exactly, and can see Pepperdine University.
Oh yes, Grace.
That's Pepperdine, yes, for Grace. Dan,
Yes.
you know, anxiety is rising big time. Not only here in the United States, but like, for example, in Switzerland, in France, specifically with young people.
That's right.
Why?
So I think anxiety is rising with young people for a lot of reasons. One of them is the prevalence of social media, and that social media creates a lot of pressures on how you let other people view you, and other people judge your self-worth.
We're going to go into a calmer space.
I stayed at 4,500 because 5,000 is LAX. And they were specific to stay outside LAX class Bravo. Dan.
Yes.
So, go on. To begin with, like if we go back to 50,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, with our ancestors, what happened with anxiety? Is it new? Is it ancient?
So anxiety is not at all a new phenomenon. Anxiety has been with us our entire ancestral past, and the reason that we developed the ability to be anxious is that long ago anxiety really helped us survive. Anxiety, from an evolutionary psychology perspective, helped humans navigate their world when there were a lot of threats to them. Anxiety helped us steer clear of things that could harm us. If you were in the wilderness and you see a predator come after you, you feel anxious because that is something that can threaten you and harm you. Anxiety helps us stay away from potentially threatening things. So anxiety really evolved to wire our brains to be aware of potential threat. So there is a big disconnect between the way that anxiety used to affect our brain and be useful to us in many ways, versus today, most of the anxiety we face is very bad for us. It is not serving us any real purpose. So essentially, the reasons that we evolved to have a strong disposition to feel anxiety is malfunctioning in the way that we live in today's society.
Look at your right side, Dan.
We're passing an aircraft.
Do you see that?
I do.
November 405 Papa Alpha, fly heading 030.
030, 5 Papa Alpha. 5 Papa Alpha, make that 360.
It's always a good idea to fly with flight following.
Oh, yes.
For safety. So,
So what area is this here? Is this Ventura or Oxnard?
That's Camarillo.
Camarillo.
Naval base. Naval base just down there is the naval base, and then Oxnard.
Wow, very rural.
Do you want to stay at 6,000 or are you still requesting 8,000?
What do you mean by anxiety is a type 2 error?
A false positive, like for example, old days, like say 50,000 years ago. If our ancestors could hear something, they would escape, they would run.
Yes.
So they would lose some energy for about a minute or two. That was the price to pay.
Right.
And then they would realize that, no, it's not a lion.
Yes.
It's not, there's no danger, and they would come back.
So here
So it was useful. And exactly like what you said, that it was very useful for our ancestors.
That's right.
False positive. Doesn't matter, you lose a little bit of energy, calories, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. But not today.
Yeah.
And the problem is that our structure, our body, has not changed over the last 50, 60,000 years. We have the same body, the same receptors, the same neurotransmitters.
Yeah.
It's 808 Whiskey. You're just south of Oxnard there at 6,500. You're going to San Diego, is correct?
A firm, 8 Whiskey.
Roger, that's what I show.
Farmer go approach Cirrus 579er Whiskey with request.
There you go. There's an 8 Whiskey and a 9er Whiskey.
Following that guy. Morton SF-20 flank off at 3,000 above Point McHugh. We'd like to go to, interestingly enough, also Santa Ynez.
Oh, also Santa Ynez.
Yeah.
You're serious as well?
A firm,
That's so interesting. I should tell him.
It's so funny. It's the exact same type of aircraft, similar tail numbers, same destination.
Is it SR-22 or SR-20?
I don't know that. He said it's a Cirrus. Okay, we're clear.
Hessam, here is the interesting thing about the type 1 and the type 2 errors with anxiety is basically when anxiety used to be very good for us many, many years ago in our evolutionary past, we were mainly dealing with physical threats. We were dealing with predators and rival tribes and basically things that threatened to harm us through physical means. And anxiety largely evolved to think about threats, and it was very useful for physical threats. Today, most threats that we face are psychological in the United States in a lot of places. These are psychological threats about how our relationships go, whether we feel a sense of belonging in our culture or our environment, and whether we have concerns about our economic security. We face a lot of psychological threats with our financial, our social, our material, our health, well-being. These are not generally things about getting physically harmed on a daily basis, although for many people, of course, that does exist. But today, we're taking an anxiety system that evolved for physical threats, and we're seeing it malfunction for psychological threats.
So how do we deal with it?
So the way you deal with anxiety, I would say there are 3 best things you can do if you are facing anxiety. Number 1 is meditation. Meditation is an excellent proven way to manage your anxiety. Mainly that is mindfulness meditation through breath work. And a daily meditation practice can very much reduce your anxiety and give you better control over your brain's processes. The second way to manage your anxiety is to go to therapy. Most of the ways that our brain faces anxiety are through distorted thought patterns. And what therapy does, using...
To your right side, Dan, there is a lake. Can you see that?
Yes.
It's called Lake Casitas.
Oh. Where is that located? Is it Santa Barbara?
No, that's... We are now approaching Santa Barbara.
Oh, okay.
We are just...
Wow.
About a minute to Santa Barbara.
So the first is meditation, second is therapy.
So the second, and the reason why therapy helps with anxiety is that a trained therapist will help you understand your thought processes and how your brain is distorting your perceptions of reality and identifying those thought patterns and understanding how to reappraise them and rethink about your thoughts is the basis of cognitive behavioral therapy, and that's a very effective way to resolve anxiety by readjusting the way you think about your life. The third way is by lifestyle modification, so healthy diet and especially regular exercise. Those are things that really can go a long way in retraining your brain to have a more peaceful, less anxious state of mind. So 3 ways to deal with anxiety: meditation, therapy, and exercise and healthy diets. Those are 3 very effective ways. And of course with that, for those facing anxiety disorders, working with a therapist and a psychiatrist, you can get prescribed anti-anxiety medication, and that can help resolve neurobiological deficit or neurobiological malfunctions.
Wonderful, thank you Dan.
So earlier you talked about anxiety started as a good thing, or you talked about that too as well.
Exactly. It was useful.
Do you think we have more, as a whole, we have more or less anxiety now?
No more, big time. Big time, even young people.
We're more secure today though.
Even for kids.
We live in homes.
Talk to us about kids then.
So I think
even
that
kids, I mean like really
whether we
young
have
age.
more or less anxiety today compared to like centuries ago and thousands of years ago, I think we have most likely. That's a really tricky question to answer, I would say. To be honest,
I guess we're more comfortable today. Look at us, we're flying and live in homes. I think that the mode has changed of anxiety, what kind of anxiety you have.
That's right. And I would say, really what to a large degree determines how much anxiety people face is your culture. The culture you live in. The broader norms and values and political and religious and family systems of your culture, that is what really determines on a large degree how much anxiety people in the culture have. So I actually don't think that anxiety levels may have changed that much from thousands of years ago to today as a function of time and historical changes. It is largely just how the cultures we live in change. There's this thing in psychology called the hedonic treadmill and the psychological immune system. Our brain has ways of reaching homeostasis, and most changes in our life, our brain automatically adjusts to reach a new equilibrium.
Take the coast and land runway 7.
So whether anxiety levels have changed a lot over time, it is not necessarily a matter of quantity, of how much anxiety levels change over time. It is a matter of quality. What type of anxieties have people been facing over time? The amount of anxiety we face is going to, in a large degree, have a restricted range based on our biology and based on our culture. It is what we make of that anxiety that really matters and what we can change. It is the type of anxiety we face and the strategies we use to turn the anxiety from a problem into a motivating factor, into a manageable state that we have. One of the biggest problems with the way that we are experiencing anxiety today, and why it may be higher than ever before, is because people are less and less mindful in their everyday life. We have technology in our pockets, we have screens all around us, and we live in a busy world. And that makes our brain constantly switching from task to task, goal to goal, concern to concern. When your brain is not focused in on the present, it goes into a panic mode very easily. We are not able to control our thoughts start controlling us. So more and more today, what distinguishes today humans, or even the humans of 30, 40 years ago, is a big shift in going from mindful and present to mindless and absent. We think we are present, but we are constantly having a big part of our brain wired into our phones and the latest notification bing that goes off on our phone. No matter what you are doing, even if you live an amazing lifestyle and you feel very secure and happy, if you are constantly redirecting your attention that's going to train your brain to be anxious. That is the problem today. Even when we have all of these meditation apps and therapists and everything in our life that we think can be very good, and they can be good. The problem with having a constant attachment to technology and notifications is you are training your brain to be anxious.
Wonderful. Dan, you see here we have completely two different ecosystems. It's fascinating. Look at your left side and look at your right side.
Yes.
Two completely different ecosystems, really.
That's right.
It's fascinating. So left side is Santa Barbara. In a few minutes we will be in Santa Ynez and you can see that lake. That lake is a good landmark.
We should start our descent.
Now, Hessam, I have a question for you about anxiety.
Go on.
When you experience anxiety, what is the first thing you do?
I'll try to be calm.
Yes. How do you do that?
By training myself. Since my childhood.
Yes.
I've had a tough childhood.
Yes.
Tough, really.
Yes.
And I've been living in so many different countries. So, I remember the first time I was in Brussels. I didn't know anybody. I just got accepted in Brussels University.
You guys can keep chatting. I'm going to get us back on track.
Okay.
And I'm going to take us some scenic route. Autopilot disconnect. I've got the aircraft. So you try to find the source of the anxiety.
So really there are three main ways you could think about the responses to anxiety that our mind has. One is approach anxiety. Approach the anxiety. Think about identify the cause of the anxiety and try to do something about it. Let's say you're having anxiety because you have a first date coming up. You can say, what is my outfit going to be? Where are we going to go for the date? I'm going to research everything I can about that museum, the coffee shop, the restaurant. You can do what you can to take control of the situation. Let's say your anxiety is because of an exam for school. You can study more. These are things to lessen your anxiety by taking action. The thing is, it's not always possible to take action over what is your anxiety's cause. So the second way to deal with anxiety is avoidance. Avoidance of the anxiety. If something is causing you anxiety, you can try to distance yourself from the source of anxiety. Try to ignore it and try to downplay it. Act as though it doesn't exist and do something else. Get your mind off of it. That can be tricky in the longer term because most likely you're going to have to deal with the anxiety at some point. So that's like anxiety procrastination. The third way, if you can't necessarily approach the anxiety and change it, but you don't want to avoid it, is what I would call self-soothing or doing something that lessens your feeling of anxiety through meditative or relaxation techniques. And those are the things like breathing, breath work, exercising, and therapy. Those are things that you're not necessarily changing the source of your anxiety. You're not avoiding the anxiety, but you're doing what you can with your own mind to make your mind feel less anxious by purely changing the way your brain is working right now.
Yeah, earlier you said mostly we have financial insecurities or anxieties. I can concur to that. Just today I have to write a big fat insurance check and I'm like, I'll do it after the flight. I'll do it after this, after that. Yeah, you try to procrastinate as much as you can.
That's right.
Do you know what we have there at your right side, Dan? What's at your right side?
That is the ocean.
Absolutely, it's completely covered.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
And that is
flying is the only way to appreciate that.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
1 mile.
One of the most common anxieties people have is of flying. It is what we are doing right now. And now, of the four of us here, do any of you feel anxious right now?
No, I don't.
That's no.
Not at all.
So me neither. Time of my life. I am not anxious because I have an excellent pilot here. I have a brilliantly trained pilot, so I'm not anxious. But here's the thing. what this shows that none of us are anxious right now, but many other people I know would be very anxious right now in my seats. As much as they trust you, Hessam, they would be anxious no matter who is flying the plane. What this shows us is that a lot of anxiety reflects what we call individual differences. There is a lot of differences in the ways that different people feel anxiety. Very idiosyncratic. And a lot of that we cannot do anything with.
Sorry to interrupt. Look at your right wing.
Yes.
Look, do you see that?
Oh, the plane.
Yeah, we're very close, same altitude. And we're going to bypass him, but look at that.
Very cool. 3 o'clock, less than a mile, same direction, Cessna 5500 has you in sight.
This is called cloud surfing, okay? We're going to surf over the clouds.
Alright.
Yeah, you know, hey, another question I have, Dan. Is there such thing as collective anxiety, for example, the war in Israel, Palestine, or Ukraine, Russia, or upcoming elections, or a financial meltdown?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be, what you could call like COVID is like a collective trauma. The pandemic is a collective trauma. So a collective anxiety, like in the way that you're saying there, is what we would call our macro system affecting the individual level and creating this big cultural effect where those kinds of events are interesting because they can make the anxiety in a way easier to deal with because you have validation and support from other people who are experiencing the same trauma and difficult experience that you are. You're not doing it alone. So you have support, you have validation, you have understanding, you have companionship. The trickier thing there, of course, is that your entire culture is experiencing that trauma or anxiety, so any escape from it is not possible. Any way to deal with it that other people can be of help to you because they're not dealing with that anxiety and you are, so they can lend you some of their emotional security to lift you up. That's no longer possible because you're all facing a struggle. So there are ups and downs to having that. It's definitely a form of a collective anxiety, absolutely.
And so let's just say earlier you were talking about in the plane, you don't have any anxiety because Hessam is a good pilot. Let's just say all of a sudden Lauren has an anxiety or Hessam has anxiety and I'm feeling fine. Is it contagious?
I think that anxiety is contagious to the extent that you trust there's a good reason why that person is anxious. Let's say one of you, for example, I don't know either of you very well except for Hessam. If one of you right now had a panic attack, I don't know if you have a pre-existing panic disorder. I don't know what the cause of this is. Maybe it's because of the plane, but I might assume that is your own thing you're dealing with, and it doesn't pertain to me. Now, if Hessam right now started saying, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, I would be very anxious because I would trust that Hessam has a rational thought process for saying there's a reason to be concerned. And my life is in his hands, and so I would say that affects me. So I think anxiety is contagious when you think that there's a reason for that person's anxiety also being relevant to you. I mean, of course, on another level, if your friends are anxious, you're going to be more anxious because that's the kind of person you're spending time with, and if they're anxious, it's harder for you to be relaxed around them. So there's a level of anxiety contagion that way.
Good afternoon, Point Mago approach, Sirius 808 Whiskey Whiskey at 5,500.
Number 808 Whiskey Whiskey Magoo, approach Magoo altimeter 3007.
07, Whiskey Whiskey, thank you. You know, we have lots of airports, lots of runways, I should say.
Approach Aspen 02.
And Harris can tell you why. There's a reason behind that.
It was, I think it was because of World War II. They realized that connectivity is the most important element in any country. So the U.S. went out building so many airports. And also, it's cowboy land, right, America? Everybody wanted to fly and learn to fly it. And the roads are so relaxed. You just put concrete and call FAA, don't make it an airport.
Dan,
Yes.
you're so young, but I checked you on Google Scholar, and some of your publications have been cited more than 400 times.
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
Thank you, Hessam. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. How many publications you have?
I have 39 published scientific papers.
39 scientific papers.
Yes.
And you're so young.
Yes.
Then you should be really bright.
Oh, thank you.
What do you think? Are you bright?
I would say I am bright. I think it's hard work, creativity, and thinking economically. Knowing what is the best use of my time and my skill set. Don't spend your brain doing things that don't make a good use of your skill set. You have to think about efficiency and what is the best way to input your energy and your resources and your mind for the most meaningful output. And do something unique. Be different than other people. That is the equation. And master a few skills. Don't master every skill. Master a few skills and then capitalize on them very effectively.
What a privilege it is to be able to fly.
It is.
Lima request.
Absolutely. This is only my second time in a private aircraft.
Yeah, you're getting spoiled. You're not going to want to fly commercial.
I'm so surprised like how smooth it is too. I thought a small plane would be like,
right?
Like this is like it's like being in a limo or something.
Yeah, it is.
It's pretty smooth.
It is. Yeah.
And it's at the top of its category. This plane, it's the best in its category.
Yeah. Hessam, your flying is smoother than smooth peanut butter.
It's a SR-22 turbo.
And it's got one of the biggest safety features it has is this parachute. God forbid anything happens, you can just pull the chute and you'll live to tell the story.
Wow.
So you know, this plane has 2 turbos, so...
We have 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so what that does is that gives you incredible performance. As we climb higher, there's less oxygen. So planes, engines are also like humans. They need oxygen to perform. As we climb higher, there's less oxygen. So most planes don't perform as well. And so what turbo does is, in a nutshell, it uses the gases from the engine to feed the engine. So the engine behaves as it's at lower levels. So that's why we have such a smooth ride at higher altitudes.
Oh.
Yeah, and then there's a fail-safe procedure in place. If one goes out, the other is there. Yeah, that's why this plane behaves so well, has so much power, is because essentially we're condensing all the airs and feeding it back into the engine, kind of like steroids. So it's a steroid for engine.
You know,
that's so cool.
Yeah, from a bigger volume, it goes to a smaller volume.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
Maybe you should think about getting your pilot's license at Proteus.
Yeah. Maybe, we'll see.
That's what we do.
Oh, that's the origin story.
Yeah.